Hello YouTube. So for ages I have been posting short little videos on Instagram and TikTok with dog training tips. Because I'm a concept trainer, sometimes like a 30-second video isn't long enough to go into detail and break down something for someone who perhaps has never heard of concept training before. So I'm bringing it to YouTube. Who knows how many of these videos there will be? Like, I'm going to go big and I'm going to do it weekly, but we'll see. But anyway, this is the first one. So you will know in a few weeks' time if I'm actually doing this weekly or if this was a one-hit wonder because I'm in a good mood. But today's video, this week's video, is going to be back to basics, and I am going to talk about what is concept training for dog owners or dog training enthusiasts, or newbies, or people who are perhaps looking to get their first dog and are in that crazy world of Googling how to train a dog. I'm going to talk about concept training because, in my opinion, as someone who has dealt with quite a lot of quite intense behavioural problems with my own dogs as well as with clients' dogs over the years, concept training is an absolute game changer. It is an absolute game changer. I think it's easier than traditional positive dog training, which, I mean, I don't have a problem with. I just think if something's easier, like, you're going to enjoy it more and you're going to get better results. I think it is more enjoyable because it's literally based on playing games with your dog. So your dog has a great time, you have a great time, and you actually tackle problem behaviours at the same time. So, okay, let's get into it. What is concept training? So the main idea behind concept training is that we don't break the dog's training down by individual behaviours and cues that we want our dog to perfect. So we don't say, okay, I want my dog to walk perfectly on lead, so I am going to teach my dog to walk on lead, and all the training is going to be on a lead, and that's my focus, and then I will have a dog that walks perfectly on lead. Instead, we step right away from all the individual struggles and problems, and we train the dog's personality, if you like. So we will train the dog to become the kind of dog who wants to walk beside their owner. Rather than training a recall, a really good recall with all of the exercises and proofing that is involved in that, we will teach the dog to value being near their owner more than being far away from their owner, so that a recall is something that they're always going to want to perform, rather than they can perform that because we have rehearsed it in all the different scenarios that could possibly occur, which, you know, if you've ever tried to train a recall, that's obviously quite challenging in itself. With a dog who maybe is reactive, I know reactivity is a massive problem for a lot of dog owners. We will train a dog to be maybe confident. We will train a dog to be optimistic so that the things that trigger reactivity aren't a problem for the dog. We will train the dog to be calm so that they are not stressed by the circumstances that may cause reactivity. And the great thing about working with reactivity specifically in this way is that you don't have to deal with setting up all of the challenging training situations that can come with reactivity training via traditional methods. So normally you might have perhaps been familiar with the idea of a dog who is reactive to seeing other dogs on walks, and you'll know that your job as a trainer is to try and desensitize the dog to the trigger of seeing another dog, and that your dog will have a comfort zone in which they will not react to seeing another dog, and it might be really hello, it might be really far away to start with. So you'll start with a dog like right on the horizon, and when your dog doesn't react, then, you know, they get a treat, and you're working really slowly to build it up, build the proximity until your dog is comfortable with dogs walking close to them. which sounds great, but obviously in real life, you can't manage the big wide world. So if someone else is walking their dog, Nova, if someone else is walking their dog around the corner from where you're training and you're working with a stooge dog that is very far away, the person coming around the corner doesn't know what you're doing. They don't know that they're going to mess it up, and you're going to send your dog straight over threshold as soon as the non-stooge dog comes right around the corner, and your training session becomes defunct. With concept training, you don't need to worry about setting up stooges. You don't need to worry about the potential triggers in the environment that you can't control that might undo the work you've achieved in one training session, because you're just playing games outside of the problem to build your dog's confidence, optimism, flexibility, all of these concepts that are going to knit together to give you a dog that isn't worried by other dogs, that doesn't feel the need to bark and alert when they see other dogs, and that doesn't feel the fear. Okay, so I think I've gone off on a bit of a tangent there into reactivity training, just because that's something I'm really familiar with, because this one, when she was younger, really struggled with reactivity. So let's go back to concept training broadly, and let's look at what the concepts are that we train and how they come together to... She's gonna pull my light out. Thanks, Nova. Let's look at how they knit together to deal with a multitude of behavioural problems. Okay, so the first concept we can talk about is proximity, which basically means how much your dog values being close to you. So obviously, if you can imagine a dog that loves to be near their owner, this is going to deal with so many problems. You are not going to have a dog who disappears as soon as you let them off lead. You are going to have a dog who, when they hear their recall cue, is going to come running straight back to you because they value being near you already. It's not like, oh, I need to do this because I know it's what I'm supposed to do. It's like, oh my gosh, great. I just heard I have an opportunity to be in the best place possible. Yeah, I'm going to go straight away. Of course I'm going to go, because that's where the value is. That's where I know the best results come for me. If you struggle with a dog who pulls on lead, so if you've got a strong dog who's always 3 meters in front of you on a walk, proximity as a concept is going to eradicate that, because they learn that the closer they are to you, the better life is. So they're going to walk beside you. So proximity is a great one for recall training. It's a great one for loose lead walking. It's a great one for off lead walking. It's a great one for not losing your dog every time you go on an off lead adventure. Teaching proximity as a concept is a total game changer when it comes to dog ownership, because you can go out on all those adventures, you can go to the park and you can let them off lead, and you can know that they're going to trot along beside you the way they do on TV. You can literally live your best life with your dog if your dog values being near you naturally as part of their personality. Okay, so another concept that it is great to build in your dog is focus, which is probably a bit of a no-brainer, because a dog that values focusing on you is going to be so much easier to train. So if you want to take your training further with your dog and you want to look at trick training or agility training, or you want to do some heel work to music. I mean, there are so many things you can get into if dog training is really a passion of yours. But having a dog that struggles to focus on you is going to make training sessions difficult for you. It's going to make them frustrating to your dog if they're kind of constantly being distracted by the big wide world, and they feel like, well, they'd rather actually chase that squirrel, or they'd rather bark at the window, or they'd rather see what's going on over there where they heard that noise. Training is going to be hard work for both of you, and if it's hard work, it's not fun. And I am a massive advocate of training being fun. Like, you bought a dog because you love dogs. You bought a dog because you want to enjoy having a dog. You're an animal lover, you wanted some company, you wanted a best friend, all of these positive reasons. If owning them and working with them and, doing everything you need to do isn't fun, what's the point? So owning a dog with a really strong focus is kind of like your doorway to training everything else, because your dog's not distracted, your dog wants to learn, your dog is going to be able to learn quicker and easier, and your relationship's going to be better for it. Okay, so the next concept is something that maybe some people don't think about when it comes to things that have a massive impact on the success of their dog training, and that is a dog's ability to manage their arousal. And when I say arousal, I mean, physiologically speaking, it's basically your dog's state of alertness. So you will perhaps notice, depending on the breed of your dog and what drives them, you might have a dog that you take out for a walk, and when they spot a squirrel, their senses kind of become heightened. They may lose their focus on you and they become obsessed with the chase of the squirrel. It can be really frustrating for you as an owner, but your dog's arousal at seeing that squirrel, because the chase excites them so much, has just shot straight up. Now, the thing with arousal is obviously having a heightened arousal to a point can improve performance. So you'll see with dogs that run agility, before they run a course, that their owners or their trainers will kind of be revving the dog up. They will want that dog's arousal to be higher because the dog will run faster. They will be able to focus more directly on the course, in the same way that your dog becomes hyper focused on the squirrel, and their performance will be better. But this is to a point. So the thing with arousal and performance is it's a bell curve. So as arousal goes up, performance will improve to a point. But when arousal gets too high, your dog's performance will literally drop off a cliff. So they will, they will lose their focus. They will become overly stressed. You might see your dog start to exhibit symptoms of stress, and their performance, it will plummet and it won't be good. So when we talk about dog training, the thing with arousal is if your dog is over the top with their state of arousal, then their focus will drop. Their ability to understand and perform cues that they know will just disintegrate. So this is what happens when you train your dog to sit or to spin when you're at home in your living room and everything's very relaxed. Arousal is not over the top, and your dog can perform it. Every time you ask them to do it, they do it. When you get out into the park and arousal is high and there's lots of people and there's lots of noise and the situation is too much, you'll notice that you're giving your dog a cue that they know, and it's like they can't hear you. They can't hear you. They don't understand the cue. All of a sudden, they don't know what's expected of them. It's like you've never taught them a thing. So this is why having a dog that is able to manage their arousal level has a knock-on effect on all of your training results. Obviously, it goes without saying that arousal plays quite a big part in reactivity issues as well. If you have a dog who is over-aroused and over-threshold when it comes to stress, their reaction is going to be bigger, depending on how your dog reacts. It's going to be noisier, it's going to be more physical, it's possibly going to look a lot more aggressive. So if you have a reactive dog, getting your head around the concept of arousal and really focusing on working on your dog's ability to come out of a high arousal state quicker, easier, with less stress and less effort is going to impact your reactivity training so much and make life so much easier for you. Another real life example of where arousal can come into play with just everyday life with your dog training is, so probably a lot of people are familiar with this, if you have a dog that goes absolutely crazy when your doorbell rings or there's a knock at the door. They're barking because they're overexcited, they're overstimulated, or they're guarding and they're jumping at the door and barking, and they're over the top, over aroused. And you have a guest coming into your house. you open the door, the guest comes in, and your dog will not calm down. They're over the top greeting the guest. Maybe they're jumping up at the guest. Maybe they're barking. Maybe they run off and do a lap of the house. They're really, really overstimulated. And then you might find that your dog seems stressed for a period of time after the guests have come into your house. So you could have started the day with a dog who was just chilled out. They've had their morning walk. They're sleeping. The doorbell goes. They go straight into high arousal. And then after that, it's kind of this maybe 1 or 2 hours of pacing, panting, harassing the guest, not being able to come down. And it's embarrassing for you because, you know, you put the effort into training your dog and you've got a dog who is, you know, just harassing people in your home, because your dog isn't able to, you know, in their mind say, okay, that was a stressful event. Everything's okay now. I can relax. And since we're talking about having guests in the home and having a well-behaved dog when you have people around for dinner, the next concept is like essential, and that is teaching your dog boundaries. So in traditional training, you might have a trainer say, you know, you need to teach your dog to go to their bed when you tell them to go to their bed, or maybe when the doorbell rings they go to their bed, or when we have people around they go to their bed or they go to their crate. So boundaries is this, but it's teaching your dog, rather than when I tell you to go to bed you go to bed, it's teaching your dog your bed is the best place to be. You love your bed. I don't need to tell you to go to your bed. You always want to be in your bed. I have to tell you to come off your bed. It's so great. Now, this doesn't mean, you know, you're holding your dog prisoner to your bed. Your bed, their bed. They'd rather be on your bed, right? But it means that you don't need to worry about counter surfing. If you've got food out on the kitchen side, your dog's going to be chilling on their bed. You don't need to worry about your dog harassing visitors when they come to your house. Your dog's going to say hello and then they're going to go back to their bed because it's the best place to be. And the thing with boundary training, if you are flexible enough with it, it doesn't just have to be their bed. So you will find, and this is really good fun when you start boundary training, that your dog will start to seek out boundaries of their own. So you might have like a doormat and your dog will, you know, put themselves on the doormat because they're like, look at me, I'm in a boundary. I found a place that's really cool and I'm going to stay here because I love doing that. So yeah, it's adding positivity to finding a space that's theirs, that they know is safe, that is comfortable and that they're happy in, and not feeling restricted, feeling happy to be there, feeling confident. And you can then take that confidence out with you into the world. So for example, when you go to the vets, if you have a dog that gets anxious about the vet waiting room, you know, you can take a boundary to the vets that your dog knows and loves, pop it on the floor, have your dog chill on the boundary. They know they're safe, and they have that confidence. Okay, the next concept is tolerance of frustration. This can make a big difference, not just in your training, but in your ability to deal with things like separation anxiety, because dogs who have a really low tolerance of frustration are not very good at staying engaged with the kind of toys that you would perhaps want to utilize when dealing with separation anxiety. For example, if you are trying to busy your dog because you're going to leave the house for an hour, and you know you're trying to make that positive experience for your dog, but you're not there to play games with your dog or engage your dog. You need to leave them with something like a maze feeder or a frozen Kong or a filled dog toy. You know, there's so many on the market these days for your dog to engage with that provides enough of a struggle that it's going to keep your dog busy for a prolonged amount of time, rather than just, you know, throwing a piece of food on the floor and then leaving. That's only going to entertain your dog for maybe 10 seconds. But not too much of a struggle that your dog becomes so frustrated that they are not reaching the food or, you know, achieving the end goal that they just give up. So a dog who doesn't tolerate frustration very well will give up on, you know, complex enrichment toys. A dog that can tolerate frustration and learns about the value of perseverance, pushing through, not giving up to reach the end goal, they can engage with these kind of toys for, self-entertainment, self-enrichment, soothing and calming, because obviously, chewing and licking is a self-soothing behavior for dogs. So if you are dealing with separation anxiety, leaving them with things that they can chew for a long time and ingest safely helps them to self-soothe and to calm down, which is what you want if they're suffering with anxiety. The other thing about tolerance of frustration is if you've ever tried to teach your dog a new trick or a new cue, like you're trying to teach them something that's just a little bit tricky. Perhaps you're trying to teach them to spin or beg or bow, or perhaps you're trying to chain a couple of behaviors together. You might find your dog showing signs of frustration when they're not understanding. If the training session isn't going well, and you might find that they start barking at you if you're trying to shape a new behavior and they're not getting it and they're not earning the rewards, that they bark, or perhaps they leave, they go and get a toy, they try and change what's happening, and the learning takes longer because they're not enjoying the session. And then when they're not enjoying the session and they're getting frustrated and they're not getting it, you end up getting frustrated, and then we're back to, well, this just isn't fun. This is hard work, and neither of us are looking forward to these sessions. So why are we doing it like this? So building tolerance of frustration in your dog is such a game changer for all of the rest of your training, because you'll have a dog who is cool with a training session that maybe at the beginning they don't quite understand, or they are cool with a filled Kong that's frozen and is going to take a bit of work, or a bit of patience, a bit of perseverance to get into. They're fine with that. The other thing about frustration is, of course, it can play out in a lot of areas of real life. So you might have a dog that you're walking on a lead and they see another dog go past on the other side of the street. They really want to get to that dog because they love playing with other dogs, and they're straining on the lead and they're getting really frustrated and stressed because you're not letting them get to that dog. Let's have a dog who likes other dogs, would love to play with other dogs, can't play with the other dog today because we don't know that owner and we're going this way, they're going that way, it's not going to happen. And just go, okay, I wanted to, but it's fine. I'm doing other things anyway. I'm still happy. I can cope with that. I'm not going to get frustrated. High levels of frustration when it comes to on-lead greetings can end up leaving you with a reactivity problem, not because your dog is scared of other dogs or they're worried by the presence of other dogs, but because they're so fed up of the repeated feeling of frustration and anger and unfulfillment that they're used to feeling when they see another dog. They constantly, every time they see another dog, they're like, oh God, I know what happens here. I get all excited and I'm never allowed to play. And then I end up feeling bad, and I don't want to feel bad. So that frustration builds, and it ends up becoming a negative reaction every time they see another dog, because they associate, oh, I see another dog and this is just going to end with me just feeling really annoyed. So go away, other dog. I don't want to do this. And then you've got a reactivity issue. And it's not because your dog's aggressive, and it's not because they're scared. It's just because they're sick of frustration. Okay, on to another awesome concept, which can sometimes contradict the world of dog training, but that is flexibility. So I'm sure you've heard lots of times that dogs love a routine. And you've perhaps been told that you need to give your dog routine and you need to stick to routine to have a happy dog. Okay, so that is true. Dogs love predictability. Dogs are incredible predictors of events, and they like to know what's going to happen, and they like to know when it's going to happen, and they do love a routine. However, in life, routine isn't always something that we can deliver for our dogs. And the problem with that is, if your dog is trained to expect routine and to feel safe and comfortable when that routine is delivered, that means that when that routine is not delivered, when life throws a curveball, which it does, it happens to the best of us, that's going to cause stress in your dog. That's going to cause anxiety and worry, and you can avoid that with the concept of flexibility. So the thing with flexibility is it's it's not really something you necessarily have to teach. It's kind of just a way of life to embrace. And it can be as simple as you don't walk your dog in the same place every day. You don't walk your dog at the same time of the day. You don't feed your dog in the same way every day. I mean, a lot of people obviously feed their dogs from a bowl. Personally, I'm a massive advocate of ditch the bowl, which means that Nova will get fed in a variety of ways throughout the day. She might get some food in a Kong, then we might scatter feed in the garden, and then she'll get some via some trick training. There are so many ways to feed a dog, so you can make that unpredictable, you can make that flexible. It could be that you push it even further by, if there is a place you drive to walk your dog most days, you might sometimes get in the car, drive to that place, and then not get out, and then drive somewhere else and get out. So we're removing that predictability from everything. Now, some people might say, well, this is going to cause stress, right? Because dogs like predictability, and if you're never giving them predictability, then how are they going to be relaxed? Well, the thing is, if there isn't a routine to break, or to miss, or to have not delivered, then there isn't a lack of anything to cause your dog that stress. So let me kind of give you a real life example. If you walk your dog at 4 o'clock every day, because that's when you get home, or that's when you have an hour free, so every day at 4 o'clock your dog is going to get their walk. Now, maybe you have a sick day, or maybe you go on holiday, someone else is looking after your dog, they have a different routine, they can't do a 4 o'clock walk, they do a 7 p.m. walk. Or maybe you've had to go and visit someone and you're actually not going to even be at home at 4 p.m. This is going to stress your dog out when 4 p.m. comes and the walk isn't delivered. They're going to be stressed. If every day they know they get a walk, okay, that's great. They get a walk every day and it'll come when it comes. There is no point in time at which your dog is going to think, oh God, I haven't had my walk today. Something must have gone wrong. Am I going to get a walk today? I need to get stressed out about this. I actually need to find my human and I need to start hassling them for my walk. Probably a lot of you are really familiar with this. If you feed your dog at a certain time and then you don't feed them at that time, and they start hassling you for their food, maybe they start whining, maybe if they're clever, they bring you their food bowl, and you get all of these problematic behaviours because they've expected something that hasn't been delivered. If, on the other hand, all of your dog's daily needs are met every day, okay, your dog is always, fed, watered, stimulated, played with, exercised, all of that is met every day. There is no neglect, there is nothing to worry about. But how it happens, when it happens, where it happens, who delivers it, that's all flexible, and it's always been flexible. So your dog is chilled. Your dog will be chilled throughout the day because they know their needs are going to be met. They don't need to hassle for them, and they don't need to worry about any kind of trigger like a time of day, or, oh, she left the house without doing X. She always does that before she leaves the house. There's nothing to trigger any kind of stress response. So as a result, your dog lives a stress-free existence. Okay, my final and possibly favorite, I've probably said that about all of them, haven't I? This is my favorite concept, but this one I love, and it is impulse control. So it's like when I talked about, the squirrel chase earlier. If you have a dog who cannot resist the impulse of things like chasing the cat when they see it, barking at the door, chasing the squirrel, that's quite a tricky existence for you, because there are a lot of temptations out there in the big wide world. I mean, there are a lot of temptations at home. It could be that you're doing a roast dinner and you've just left the roast chicken on the side, and your dog is like, yeah, no, I want the chicken. My impulse is to eat it because I'm a dog and I have absolutely no self-control, so I'm just going to eat it. The thing about impulse control is, it's something your dog can use to restrain themselves. You don't need to be there to restrain them. So you don't need to see the squirrel first and tighten the lead and panic. You don't need to push the food back from the counter, or pull your dog down from the counter, or shut your dog out of the room. Your dog has a level of impulse control so that they can hold themselves back from the temptations that perhaps aren't always the best for them. The other thing about impulse control training that is really great for all the rest of your training is it gives you a way to super proof all of your cues and behaviors and expectations that you are teaching your dog. So, if you're teaching your dog to sit, like let's go back to basics. You're teaching your dog to sit and you want them to stay in a sit until they get released. You can teach them a sit in your lounge. Great, they're going to do it. It's going to be really easy. Can they still sit while then the doorbell rings? They want to run to the door and greet the guest. That is an impulse. Can they still sit if you then put a bit of food out in front of them? Can they resist that and stay in a sit? Teaching impulse control as a concept and growing impulse control means that you can practice all of these fantastic skills in your home. You don't need the test of the squirrels or the cats or the other dogs. And if you grow it as a concept in your home, you can take their impulse control out into the real world and it will translate onto all of those other temptations. So I think the key takeaway for concept training is you are not training your dog in the problem. You are training them for the problem. So if your dog chases cats, you're not going to go out and you're not going to stalk the neighborhood cats. And then when you see one, you're going to do a training exercise while the cat's there. You're not going to do that. You're going to play games at home designed to focus on each of these concepts and grow these ideas and these strengths and these neural pathways in your dog's brain so that your dog is constantly making the right decisions for themselves. And then you're going to go out there into the big wide world and your dog is going to show behaviors and make choices that literally shock you. Impulse control, they're not going to chase cats. Proximity, they're going to actually start walking beside you on the lead. They're going to recall. Flexibility, you want to take them on holiday, you want to go somewhere new, you want to mix up your routine, they're going to be cool with it. They're going to be just as relaxed as you are. It's all good. So I've mentioned a few of the core concepts. There are far more. I mean, I don't know how long this video is yet because I haven't edited it, but we could literally go on all day. There are so many concepts. There are so many ways that you can develop your dog's personality to help them make the right choice for themselves. And the best part about concept training, it's all fun. We are not working with problems. We are working with things that we do want, solutions, and how we're gonna just grow our dog's ability to make the choices for themselves that deliver those solutions. And concept training is delivered pretty much through playing games with your dog, which is literally, we have the bin lorry. Casually waiting for the bin lorry to go, but look at this though. You can't see her, there she is. This is a dog who, in years gone by would have been absolutely barking like a wild thing at the curtains because we've literally got men in high vis, we've got a really noisy lorry, we've got people coming on our driveway. She's kind of interested, but she's like, yeah, that's fine. Non-reactive, not gonna get stressed, gonna control any impulse that I might want to go crazy over there, chilled behavior. I haven't asked her to chill out. She's just making the choice for herself, and that is the joy of concept training. I feel like that was the ending to the video, wasn't it? That was the conclusion. Here is concept training in all its finite glory. But seriously, until I go back and edit this, I'm not going to know if I've done concept training justice. But if you want to read more about it, obviously I've got a blog full of articles about concept training at listendogtraining.com. If you want any additional resources, we've got planners, we've got guidebooks. There's some free stuff you can download on the website. If you sign up to the emails, there's loads of goodies there if you want to learn more. Or you can come find me on TikTok or Instagram at listendogtraining. Ask me any questions, drop some questions on the video. I'm more than happy to help if there is anything that you don't understand or point you in the right direction. Also, in terms of resource, there is also this book by Tom Mitchell, who is part of Absolute Dogs and works alongside trainer Lauren Langman to deliver concept training through the Absolute Dogs Academy, the Pro Dog Trainer program, which I was a graduate of quite quite a few years ago now. But yeah, there's so many resources becoming available online as this kind of training grows in popularity. I would say it's still kind of fairly new. Like, I still come across people who are like, oh no, I've never heard of that. People who own dogs and people who are training their dogs. So yeah, if you're interested, look out more, look out me. I'm online in various places, and happy training. And if I am feeling this good next week, maybe there will be another video. Fingers crossed. Why would we?